In a world filled with distractions, constant noise, and endless to-do lists, many of us find ourselves caught in a cycle of stress and anxiety. We spend so much energy regretting the past or worrying about the future that we often forget the most important place of all, the present moment. Eckhart Tolle's timeless classic, The Power of Now, offers us a profound reminder that true peace, freedom, and happiness can only be found here and now. This book is not just a guide, it's a transformative experience. Tolle reveals how most human suffering comes from identifying too deeply with the mind and ego, and how liberation begins when we step out of those patterns. By learning to silence the chatter of the mind and fully embrace the present, we uncover a state of inner stillness that has always been within us. Throughout its chapters, The Power of Now explores practical ways to enter this state of presence, from observing your thoughts without judgment, to feeling the aliveness of your inner body, to surrendering to life as it unfolds. Tolle explains that enlightenment is not some distant achievement. It's accessible in every moment, if we choose to awaken. On today's Journey with Wiser Reads, we'll dive into the essence of this spiritual masterpiece. You'll discover the key lessons that can help you break free from the grip of worry and fear, and instead experience the deep peace that comes with living fully in the now. So if you're ready to shift your perspective and step into a life of awareness and presence, stay tuned. Let's unlock the wisdom of the power of now together. And remember, your path to enlightenment begins in this very moment.
You are not your mind. In the opening chapter of The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle challenges one of the deepest assumptions we carry, the belief that we are our thoughts. He explains that the mind is a powerful tool, but when we identify completely with it, we become trapped in a cycle of endless thinking, worry, and distraction. This constant stream of thoughts drowns out the deeper reality of who we truly are. Tolle emphasizes that most of the suffering people experience arises from over-identification with the mind and the ego, the part of us that clings to the past or anxiously projects into the future. Instead of living in the present moment, we replay old regrets or anticipate problems that may never happen. This not only causes stress and unhappiness, but also blinds us from experiencing the richness of life in the now. He invites readers to become the observer of their thoughts rather than their prisoner. By cultivating awareness, we can recognize that we are not the voice in our head, but the consciousness that notices it. This shift in perspective creates space between who we are and what we think, opening the door to inner peace. Tolle introduces practical ways to begin this process. One method is to simply watch the mind without judgment, noticing the patterns of thought as they arise and pass. Another is to pay attention to silence, stillness, and the spaces between thoughts, experiences that reveal the deeper dimension of consciousness. Ultimately, this chapter teaches that freedom begins when we disidentify from the mind and ego. Instead of letting thoughts control us, we step into the present moment and realize our true essence as awareness itself. By learning to live as the witness rather than the thinker, we begin to taste the profound peace of being.
Consciousness, the way out of pain. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explores the nature of human suffering and reveals how consciousness provides the path to freedom. He explains that much of the pain people experience is self-created, arising not from external events themselves, but from how the mind interprets and resists them. By living in constant identification with thoughts and emotions, we unconsciously generate suffering and prolong it. Tolle introduces the concept of the pain body, an accumulation of old emotional pain that lives within each person. This pain body is triggered when certain situations or memories surface, and it feeds on negative emotions such as anger, resentment, fear, or sadness. When we remain unaware of it, the pain body takes over our reactions and keeps us locked in cycles of unhappiness. The key to breaking free lies in awareness. By bringing conscious attention to the pain body when it arises, without judging it or resisting it, we begin to dissolve its power. Simply observing the emotion as a witness rather than a victim weakens its grip. Conscious presence acts like light shining into darkness, making it impossible for the pain body to survive in the same way. Tolle also emphasizes that suffering intensifies when we resist what is. Resisting the present moment, whether through denial, anger, or complaint, creates inner conflict. Acceptance of what is, however, allows space for transformation. This does not mean passivity, but rather meeting reality with clarity and presence instead of ego-driven resistance. Ultimately, the chapter teaches that the way out of pain is not found by endlessly analyzing or fighting it, but by stepping into a higher level of awareness. Through consciousness, we transcend the identification with pain and uncover the peace and stillness of our true self. The moment we fully inhabit the now, suffering begins to dissolve and a deeper freedom emerges.
Moving deeply into the now. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle deepens the central teaching of his book, The Power of Living Fully in the Present Moment. He explains that the now is not just a fleeting point between past and future, but the very dimension where life truly happens. When we're disconnected from the present, we live in a state of illusion, constantly dwelling on what has already passed or anxiously anticipating what is yet to come. Tolle stresses that time is a construct of the mind, and while clock time has practical uses, psychological time, our obsession with past and future, is the root of much suffering. Regret, guilt, resentment, fear, and anxiety all stem from identification with time, pulling us away from the richness of now. Freedom begins when we realize that the present moment is all we ever truly have. To move more deeply into the now, Tolle invites us to practice presence, a state of heightened awareness where we fully engage with the reality unfolding in front of us. This requires observing our thoughts without being consumed by them, and bringing attention to simple experiences such as the rhythm of the breath, the sensation of the body, or the stillness around us. These practices anchor us in presence and open the door to peace. Tolle also emphasizes the importance of acceptance. Whatever arises in the now, whether pleasant or painful, should be acknowledged without resistance. By saying yes to the present moment, we dissolve inner conflict and allow transformation to happen naturally. Resistance to what is creates tension, but surrender brings clarity and freedom. Ultimately, this chapter teaches that moving deeply into the now is both simple and profound. It requires letting go of mental noise and entering the stillness that has always been available. In that state, we connect with our true essence beyond ego and thought. The now becomes not just a practice, but a gateway to inner peace, joy, and spiritual awakening.
Mind strategies for avoiding the now. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explains how the mind creates endless distractions to keep us from experiencing the present moment. The ego thrives on time, constantly pulling our attention to the past and future because it cannot survive in the stillness of now. By feeding on worry, regret, anticipation, and fear, the mind keeps us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction and prevents us from realizing inner peace. One of the most common strategies of the mind is attachment to psychological time. Instead of living fully in the present, we wait for happiness in the future. A better job, more success, improved circumstances, or the fulfillment of desires. Tolle warns that this creates a perpetual state of not enough, where joy is always postponed. Another strategy is identification with problems and suffering. The mind constantly looks for something to fix or resist, creating drama to strengthen the ego. This prevents true resolution because the focus is always on conflict rather than acceptance. Similarly, the mind often uses negativity, complaint, and judgment as tools to maintain control, distracting us from the peace available in the present. Tolle highlights the illusion of seeking salvation outside of the now, whether through material possessions, relationships, or achievements. While external goals can provide temporary satisfaction, they cannot bring lasting fulfillment. True liberation comes only from awakening to presence, where we are no longer ruled by thought patterns. The way to break free is through awareness. By noticing these mind-made strategies as they arise, we weaken their hold. Instead of unconsciously following thoughts, we observe them with presence. This simple act of witnessing dissolves the ego's power and reconnects us to the reality of the moment. Ultimately, this chapter shows that the mind is not our enemy, but a tool that must be used consciously. When we stop allowing it to dominate us with distractions and strategies, we discover the timeless dimension of now. In that space of presence, life unfolds with clarity, freedom, and peace.
The state of presence. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explores the essence of what he calls presence, a state of heightened awareness that transcends ordinary thinking. Presence means being fully awake in the moment, deeply connected to what is happening right now without the interference of past regrets or future worries. It is the key to spiritual awakening and the foundation of true inner peace. Tolle explains that most people are rarely present. Instead, they live almost entirely through the mind, constantly analyzing, labeling, comparing, and judging. This mental chatter keeps us trapped in time and prevents us from experiencing the stillness of being. Presence, by contrast, is a state of pure awareness, where thought subsides and a deep sense of aliveness and clarity emerges. One of the defining qualities of presence is inner stillness. In presence, we are no longer identified with the restless voice in our head, but anchored in the silent observer, the consciousness behind the thoughts. This shift reveals that we are not the mind, but the awareness that notices the mind. From this recognition arises a profound sense of freedom and serenity. Tolle emphasizes that presence is not something to achieve in the future. It is always available here and now. Simple practices like focusing on the breath, feeling the body from within, or giving full attention to an ordinary activity can open the door to presence. Even a brief moment of complete awareness is enough to glimpse this deeper state of being. Importantly, the state of presence does not remove challenges from life, but it changes how we meet them. Instead of reacting unconsciously through fear or resistance, we respond with clarity and acceptance. In presence, suffering lessens, because we are no longer bound by the stories of the mind. Ultimately, Tolle presents presence as the gateway to enlightenment. It is both the path and the destination, the living realization of our true nature beyond thought and ego. By cultivating presence, we rediscover peace, joy, and a deeper connection to life itself.
The inner body. In the inner body, Eckhart Tolle introduces a powerful practice for deepening presence, connecting with the subtle energy field within the body. He explains that while the mind constantly pulls us outward into thoughts and distractions, turning inward to sense the body anchors us in the now and keeps us rooted in awareness. The inner body is not the physical form we see in the mirror, but the living energy that gives it life, the aliveness beneath the surface. By directing attention inward and feeling this energy, even in something as simple as noticing the tingling in your hands or the breath moving through you, we step out of mental noise and into direct presence. Tolle emphasizes that this connection to the inner body has many benefits. It grounds us in the present moment, reduces overthinking, and weakens the dominance of the ego. It also helps us access a deeper vitality and resilience, since awareness of the inner body aligns us with life itself. In moments of stress, fear, or anger, shifting attention to the body dissolves negative emotions and restores balance. He also describes the inner body as a gateway to the unmanifested, the spiritual dimension beyond the physical and mental. By staying rooted in the body's energy, we maintain a living connection with this deeper essence and prevent the mind from pulling us into unconscious patterns. Tolle suggests simple practices to cultivate this awareness, feeling the body from within as often as possible, giving attention to the breath, or scanning through the body and sensing its aliveness. With practice, this presence grows stronger until awareness of the inner body becomes a natural state. Ultimately, this chapter shows that the body is more than a physical vessel. It is a bridge to consciousness. By inhabiting the inner body, we discover a profound stillness and a sense of being that is untouched by time or external circumstances. In this state, we are no longer lost in thought, but deeply anchored in the now, connected to both our humanity and our timeless essence.
Portals into the unmanifested. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explains the idea of the unmanifested, the formless source of all existence, beyond the world of time, thought, and form. While our ordinary experience is rooted in the manifest world, the things we see, touch, and think about, the unmanifested represents pure being, the eternal dimension of consciousness. Connecting with it brings deep peace, freedom from fear, and a direct sense of the sacred. Tolle describes several portals that allow us to access the unmanifested in everyday life. The first is stillness. Whenever we rest in silence, without mental noise, we touch the eternal presence behind all forms. The second is the inner body. By sensing the aliveness within, we become aware of the energy field that connects us to the formless source. Another portal is the experience of dreamless sleep. While unconscious, dreamless sleep offers a glimpse of formless rest, the same state the awakened person experiences consciously in presence. Similarly, the now itself is a gateway. By fully embracing the present moment, we bypass thought and time and open to the timeless essence of being. Tolle also emphasizes acceptance and surrender as portals. When we stop resisting life and meet each moment with openness, we align with a deeper intelligence beyond the mind. This surrender allows us to feel the peace of the unmanifested, even in difficult circumstances. Importantly, he clarifies that these portals do not lead to something separate or far away. The unmanifested is not outside us, it is our innermost essence. By entering through any of these gateways, we realize the unity of all life and the truth that form and formlessness are inseparable. Ultimately, this chapter shows that access to the unmanifested is always available. Whether through stillness, inner body awareness, surrender, or presence, every person can step beyond thought and touch the eternal dimension within. In doing so, we discover a profound peace that transcends the ups and downs of ordinary life and reconnect with the sacred source of existence itself.
Enlightened relationships. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explores how presence transforms the way we relate to others. He explains that most relationships are unconsciously shaped by the ego, which uses others to fulfill its desires, avoid loneliness, or reinforce its identity. This ego-driven dynamic often results in conflict, dependency, or cycles of pleasure and pain. Relationships based on unconscious patterns can seem passionate at first, but usually turn into struggle when expectations and attachments take over. Tolle emphasizes that true connection arises only through presence. When both individuals are anchored in the now, they meet each other free from the projections of the mind. Instead of relating through ego, they relate through awareness, seeing each other as expressions of the same consciousness. This shift creates relationships rooted in acceptance, compassion, and authenticity rather than need or control. He also introduces the concept of the pain body within relationships. Old emotional wounds often get triggered during close connections, causing arguments or emotional outbursts. However, if we remain conscious when the pain body arises, both in ourselves and in others, we prevent it from dominating the relationship. Simply observing it without reacting weakens its power and allows healing. An enlightened relationship does not mean the absence of challenges, but challenges are met differently. Instead of fueling conflict, partners use difficulties as opportunities to deepen presence. In this way, relationships become powerful tools for spiritual growth. Tolle also stresses that being comfortable with aloneness is essential. If we cannot be at peace by ourselves, we will seek others to cover up inner emptiness, which leads to dependency. True relationships emerge when individuals no longer need each other to feel whole, but come together to share in being. Ultimately, enlightened relationships are partnerships in awakening. They go beyond fulfilling personal desires and instead serve as mirrors of consciousness, helping both people stay rooted in the now. Through presence, relationships become not sources of suffering, but pathways to peace, love, and spiritual realization.
Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. In this chapter, Eckhart Tolle explains that true peace is deeper than the temporary states of happiness or unhappiness. He points out that both are tied to external conditions and the fluctuations of life. Happiness usually arises when events align with our desires, while unhappiness appears when they do not. Since circumstances are constantly changing, these emotional states are unstable and unreliable. Tolle emphasizes that lasting fulfillment cannot be found in the pursuit of happiness because it depends on conditions outside of us. Instead, real peace arises from a state of being that is independent of external situations. This peace comes from living in the now and connecting with the deeper essence of consciousness, which remains untouched by gain or loss, success or failure, pleasure or pain. He explains that when we no longer resist what is, we stop creating inner conflict. Acceptance of the present moment opens the door to peace, even when life's surface conditions are challenging. This does not mean passivity. It means meeting reality without the added burden of mental resistance. From this inner stillness, wise and effective action naturally emerges. Tolle also clarifies the difference between joy and happiness. Joy arises from presence itself. It is not dependent on circumstances. While happiness comes and goes, joy is a steady undercurrent that flows from being aligned with the present moment. By transcending the duality of happiness and unhappiness, we discover a freedom that is not tied to time or conditions. This peace is always available,
because it is our true nature beneath thought and emotion. Ultimately, this chapter teaches that the search for happiness is an endless trap of the ego. The way out is not through striving for more favorable circumstances, but by awakening to presence. In doing so, we uncover the peace that exists beyond both happiness and unhappiness, a peace that no external situation can take away.
The meaning of surrender. In the final chapter, Eckhart Tolle explains that surrender is the key to living in alignment with life and finding true inner peace. Many people misunderstand surrender as weakness, resignation, or passivity. In reality, surrender is a powerful inner shift, the choice to accept the present moment completely, without resistance or judgment. Tolle emphasizes that most human suffering comes from resisting what is. The mind constantly labels situations as good or bad, and when reality doesn't match our expectations, we fight against it, creating stress, anger, or despair. By surrendering to the now, we stop opposing reality and allow life to unfold as it is. This acceptance brings freedom, clarity, and a deep sense of peace. Importantly, surrender does not mean giving up on change or becoming passive. It means first accepting the present fully, and then, if action is needed, acting from a place of clarity rather than resistance. For example, leaving an unhealthy situation is not contradictory to surrender, as long as the decision arises from awareness and not from denial or resentment. Tolle also explains that surrender deepens our connection to the unmanifested, the formless source of all life. By letting go of mental resistance, we open ourselves to the greater intelligence of the universe. This allows us to respond to challenges with wisdom instead of ego-driven reaction. He highlights that even in the face of pain, surrender can transform our experience. When we stop resisting suffering and allow it to be, the pain body loses its grip, and a deeper stillness emerges. Through surrender, even difficulties become opportunities for awakening. Ultimately, surrender is the realization that life always unfolds in the present moment, and resisting it only creates more suffering. By saying yes to now, we align ourselves with reality, discover freedom from the ego, and enter into lasting peace.
As we come to the end of The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment, one lesson shines above all. Peace and freedom are not hidden in the past or waiting in the future. They are available here, in this very moment. Eckhart Tolle reminds us that much of our suffering comes from identifying too closely with the restless mind and resisting what is. By stepping into presence, we dissolve fear, anger, and worry, and discover a stillness that has always been within us. Through practices like observing our thoughts, connecting with the inner body, and embracing surrender, Tolle shows us that enlightenment is not some distant goal, but a living reality. The now is more than just time. It is the gateway to true joy, clarity, and freedom. If this book has taught us anything, it's that awakening begins not tomorrow, but right now. Every moment you choose presence is a step toward a life of peace and awareness. Join us here on Wiser Reads as we continue exploring the wisdom of life-changing books together. Let's awaken, grow, and discover the power of knowledge, one book at a time.